Greetings, and today we're talking about Pokemon and using them as stock keepers. Specifically, what I want to talk about is the problems in using them. You see, when you first put a Pokemon on a seat to act as your storage keeper, they work just fine. However, after you move far enough away and you come back, they seem to break. You can fix them by leading them and then putting them back on their seat. However, this isn't viable in most use cases, because at that point you might as well use a blaze burner. Firstly, we can put a blaze burner down on the same stock ticker. However, this is the same point as the last one. We might as well skip the Pokemon and just use the blaze burner at this point. So, instead of all this complaining, what's my solution? Well, as we've seen, we can reinstate a Pokemon as a keeper and make them work again. So the root of my solutions are this. Automate the reinstating as keeper process, which I found easiest pulsing a card assembler under the seat with redstone. Well, the first vanilla way of doing this is using a calibrated sculk sensor with a signal strength of 2 into this amethyst side. That will calibrate it to listen to any falling entity that is falling on any block other than wool. And that fall is tiny. But when it does hear that, it will output a redstone signal, which we're putting into this card assembler, which will achieve the effect we want. So right next to our original Sculk setup, we have another one that shows just how compact and lightweight this setup really is. You have an analog lever putting 2 signal into the calibrated Sculk receiver. That's sending it into your seat, and this is fine for like 99% of people. You don't really need any more than this. But if you want to get into the weeds, especially of a certain mod that is a little complicated because it involves coding, you can get into ComputerCraft as well as advanced peripherals. But hey, if you don't want to get into ComputerCraft, you think it's tech sorcery, heresy, whatever you want to say, that's just fine. Or if the server you're on doesn't want to add it, or you don't want to add it, that's completely fine. This setup is perfect on its own. I'm just nitpicky. It is fine. I'm just doing a different thing. But if you want to see that separate thing, keep watching the video. Otherwise, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope this helped you. So, you've decided to stay for the ComputerCraft side of this video, and I thank you for it. Because I think this is really neat, and I think it has a lot of use cases just also outside of using it for this storage keeper solution. And for what this is, and for the code that I have, this is pretty simple, especially for someone else to set up because of the quality of life stuff that is in ComputerCraft. So you take your computer, this is not set up, it's basically brand new, there's no other files for you to, use that I've put in to trick you, because that would kind of be stupid. But this system requires a player detector and a redstone relay, with specifically a redstone link on top. So this link currently is configured the same as that one, that will affect this one under here that is set to receive. Now, this is kind of it for the blocks you need. Everything else is going to be within this computer, and it's only one step really, which is pasting this, which I'll put in the description of this video, and it basically copies the code I've already written for this. And if we want, we can just do startup, and it's running. It pulsed that, and this is kind of all we need to do. And one little thing is that because it's labeled startup, even if this computer turns off, it'll immediately start it up again. You don't have to go to each of these computers to set this back up. But another thing, just a little one that I want to talk about, is having these things not directly connected. So if we say want to have this player detector directly under a market stall setup, like a farmer's market, we can just do that with a wired modem, networking cable, and click this to red so it's connected to the computer. This doesn't need to be read from what I understand, and it functions as intended. Now, if this wasn't working when we restarted, it would throw an error. But it's just that simple. Just that simple. I can go into the code really quickly to show you a little bit of config. And that little bit of config is this R number. And this R number represents our range. So right now, that's 35 blocks. And currently what will happen is if it detects a player within 35 blocks, when it starts, it will pulse. And then it will set this has pulsed to true, which will keep it from continually pulsing. And therefore, you know, you're not just having it constantly bounce. But once you're out of range or no player is within range, because this isn't limited to you specifically, so it is useful on server environments. If it detects no players, it will kind of reset to its default state, where if it detects a player again, it will repulse and reset. So even though I've done all of this stuff like 30 times, this one works immediately. I've gone over basically on that horizon 30 times just so I can reset for this first bit because I was fucking it up. And this works perfectly. It doesn't need all that much to function. And just to show that this still works, oak logs, brother. Right? I think it's neat. And back to my original point, this setup is tiny. Now, if you don't mind farming amethyst or sculk sensors, this is fine. You can do this 1,000 times and just be perfectly fine. But you can also do this 1,000 times, and all of this is just stone, redstone, and iron. It's pretty neat. But other than that, that's really all I had to say on this subject. I thank you for watching this video. I hope this helped. I hope maybe I sparked a little bit of interest in ComputerCraft. And yeah, have a nice day.